Hello! I am Wallas, the Polish toy guy. Today I'm going to show you how to transform Deluxe Dinobot Slug from Transformers Generations Power of the Primes. This video will show you how to transform him from dinosaur mode to robot mode and back, how to use his prime armor gimmicks and how to transform him into his two limb modes. Let's begin. First, let's start with showcasing the dinosaur mode gimmicks, and the most obvious one is weaponizing Slug up, using several 5mm weapon ports scattered across his body. So, for example, we can use the handgun that's in this set to give him some firepower, or use the same slot to attach his prime armor in dinosaur mode. And while the instructions recommend that we use this spot, nothing stops us from using any other that we see fit. Or if you think Slug's own weapons are insufficient to win the battle, you can always use all of his weapon ports available in this mode to give him more firepower. Also, you can use two small posts on Slug's back to carry around Prime or Titan Masters that you may have available. And now we will transform Slug into his robot mode. So we will start with unplugging his legs from his back. We have two hooks that go into cavities that will become the bottom of his robot toes. So we first have to unclip these. Just push down on the tail section. And now we can split the legs. And first, pull down on the tail halves and then swing them out to the side. This will allow us to fully swing out the robot legs. So, 1 and 2. And in a moment we will use the tail as filler pieces, but first we want to deploy Slug's heels or support bits. And the easiest way to do it is to just pull down on the rear legs, which are connected to these bits in a way that they push them out to a certain point, enough for us to grab them with our fingers and complete the deployment on our own. And then we do the same over here on the other end, and they will gently lock into place. Now we can swing back the tail so that it goes into this cavity. And now we can take care of the rear legs, which we first collapse. And then we rotate them so that small tabs inside the legs will lock into small slots in the tail hinges. And you will more feel this than hear it. But it's still a quite nice and secure connection. So now we can transform the top. So let's start with deploying the fists from inside the front legs. And if you're having problems with taking them out, you can always plug in Slug's gun and then use it as leverage or a lever. But usually that's not needed. And there we have the arms. So the final step is to transform his head and chest. So we have to first move the dinosaur head to robot mode position, so we push it all the way down so that this small cutout will surround this red chunk of plastic with an audible and satisfying click. And finally we can swing out the horns if we want, not necessarily, but we can. And finally flip down the dinosaur jaw to reveal Slug's head, and this will also click into position. And now Slug's robot mode is complete. So now that we are in robot mode, let's see what we can do with it using the parts that we have in the same set. Of course, the first option is to arm Slug up using his own handgun, and we can use the features provided by the prime armor. The first one for this mode being using it as well chest armor that we attach using this port in the dinosaur jaw to get something like this. Or we can remove it from here, remove the gun, remove the placeholder for the Prime Master, and use this panel as a small handgun. So it can go here, and use the remaining part as a sort of melee weapon. Like this. Or we can start using all of the available weapon ports in this mode to Rambo Slug up, and depending on the weapons that you have in your position, the final result can be really interesting. And now it's time to transform Slug back into his dinosaur mode. So let's start with hiding away his fists. Now we can take care of his head, so we flip up the dinosaur jaw and remove this from the robot mode position. Push this down gently so that these hooks land on top of these red edges. And now we have the dinosaur head in its right position, which is also indicated by this hinge bit becoming flush with the back piece. And we can also adjust the dinosaur horns accordingly if we so choose. It's not necessary. And we bend down the dinosaur front legs. And now we go to the legs of the robot mode and start transforming them. So first we untap the rear legs of the dinosaur from these spots. This will allow us to easily lift up the tail halves and rotate them out of the way. And now we can hide away the heels, and we can do it by pulling the legs down and then up again, or we can just push them in manually like this. And now we combine the legs and rotate them so that these cavities are aligned with these hooks, and we will now use the set cavities to hook into the back of the robot mode, and this stabilizes the whole rear end of the dinosaur, and we can further stabilize it by combining the tail first below and finally above, and we just make sure all of the legs are at the same straight line. And with that said, Slug's dinosaur mode is now complete again. And now it's time to transform Slug into his limber modes. So let's start with the arm mode, which is easier accessed from robot mode. So what we want to do is to hide his fists away. Then we want to bend his forearms 90 degrees and twist them around so that this tab will lock with this slot. And it's important that the forearm is bent at the right degree, otherwise you may have problems with fitting the parts together. So it clicks into position. Then we can transform the head by first hiding it away behind the chest or jaw panel and disconnecting it from robot mode position. And then we have to lift this up and bend this down so that the jaw hinge lands on this small cutout, like that. And finally, after raising the combiner port 90 degrees, we can combine the legs, choose which arm should Slug become. I see on the pictures that he's supposed to be the left arm, so let's twist the legs accordingly. And now we get our hands on the prime armor, deploy the fingers of the combiner mode, lower the thumb of our choice, push out the peg and connect it to the port at the bottom of Slug's legs. And now we have him in completed arm mode. And now let's transform Slug into his leg mode, which is not as often promoted but still possible. And it's easier to do when we start from the dinosaur mode. So let's proceed that way. And first, turn him around and tuck his tail under the main body. Collapse his rear legs and tap them into the small slots in his tail hinges. Now we can bend around his front legs and tap them into the sides of his main body. Making sure that the elbow is bent properly as to not create a possibility of misalignment. And when everything clicks into position well, you will actually hear an audible click. And finally, we can change the position of the dinosaur head from dinosaur mode to limb mode. So we raise this hinge in his back all the way, bend down the head so that the round shapes of his jaw hinge will connect with the small cutout at the base of the neck, and lower it gently to it. And finally, we deploy the combiner port all the way up. And that's how you get Slug into his leg mode. And since the prime armor he comes with only transforms into hand mode, we have to rely on feet either taken from Combiner Wars or that come from any of the Voyagers from Power of the Primes. And that's all for this transformation guide. I hope it was useful to you and you liked it. More guides like this are coming soon, and in the meantime, feel free to suggest a new one in the comments. I might just have the toy you want to see transformed. I will catch you again in the next video, and until then, stay well. Polish Toy Guy signing out.